My name is David, and I am about to tell you the story of how I lost my best friend over a stupid decision made in a single moment. A moment that lasted maybe 5 seconds, but changed everything between us forever. This happened 10 years ago when we were just out of high school. We were young and dumb, and we thought we were invincible. But that day taught me something I have never forgotten. That people show you who they really are if you pay attention, and sometimes what you see is so ugly that you can never look at them the same way again. Glenn and I had been best friends since we were 4 years old. We grew up together. We knew each other's families. We had made plans together. Real plans. When we were freshmen in high school, we decided we were going to take a road trip across the country to Las Vegas after graduation. We would celebrate. We would gamble. We would see the world before college pulled us apart to different schools. For 4 years, we talked about that trip. We planned it. We dreamed about it. But neither of us had a car good enough to make a long-distance drive. That was until my parents surprised me with a brand new convertible Mustang for graduation. A red convertible Mustang. The car I had always wanted. The day my parents gave me the car, my dad asked what I had planned for the summer. I had not told them about the trip yet. So I decided that was the moment. I told them everything. I expected them to say no. I expected them to tell me it was too dangerous. Instead, my dad just smiled. He said Glenn and I were about to go to different colleges. He said we should have 2 weeks to celebrate before everything changed. He said go have fun. Be careful. But go. I called Glenn immediately. He told me his mother had already said yes to the trip. She had even given him $500 as a graduation present. But we both knew the real reason. She was giving him money for the trip. Glenn had never had much. His father had left when he was younger. His mom worked hard, but money was always tight. So she gave him what she could and pretended it was just a graduation gift. The Monday after graduation, we packed up the Mustang and hit the road. We had 2 full weeks, but we wanted to get to Las Vegas as fast as possible. We invested in a radar detector. We were speeding the entire way, averaging around 100 miles per hour. We made it to Vegas in less than 7 hours. We were exhausted when we arrived, so we crashed out. After 8 or 9 hours of sleep, we hit the town. For a full week, we gambled and drank and met girls. We did everything we had dreamed about doing. It was the best week of my life. I was having the time of my life. But by the end of that week, we were broke. Completely broke. We had lost everything we had won 5 times over. On the drive back home, we barely had enough money for gas. We were tired and hungover and just wanted to get back to reality. That is when we saw him. A hitchhiker standing on the side of the road with his thumb out. He was maybe in his 30s. Thin, weathered looking. The kind of guy you would normally just drive past. I told Glenn not to stop. I told him it was a bad idea. But Glenn had other plans. Glenn thought it would be funny. Glenn pulled over despite my protests. The hitchhiker saw us stop and started jogging toward the car. He was maybe a foot away from the back bumper when Glenn floored the gas pedal. The Mustang shot forward. Rocks and dirt sprayed everywhere. The hitchhiker jumped back. Glenn was laughing. He thought it was hilarious. He thought he had played the best prank ever. But I did not think it was funny. Not at all. This was mean. This was cruel. This was the kind of thing that would haunt me. Less than a mile down the road, we realized the car was running on fumes. Glenn pulled into a gas station that appeared ahead. I went inside to pay while Glenn pumped the gas. I grabbed some snacks and drinks. I was heading back to the car when I saw something that made my stomach drop. Someone was running down the side of the road, running toward the gas station, running toward us. It was the same hitchhiker, the one Glenn had just sprayed with rocks and dirt. He was still a good 50 yards away, but he was coming fast. I pointed him out to Glenn. I expected Glenn to be worried. I expected Glenn to want to leave. Instead, Glenn just watched him in the rearview mirror. Then Glenn slowly started pulling out of the parking lot. Not fast, slowly, like he wanted the guy to reach us, like he wanted to mess with him more. The hitchhiker started yelling. His voice was angry. His face was red. He was pointing at us. But Glenn was just laughing. Glenn thought this was all some kind of game. Glenn was circling the gas pumps slowly, playing with this guy like a cat plays with a mouse. The hitchhiker was getting closer. He was maybe spitting distance away now. I could hear what he was saying. He was cursing at us. He was screaming that we had humiliated him. He was furious. That is when I saw it. The hitchhiker pulled a gun from the back of his pants. A real gun. Metal and dark and terrifying. Everything changed in that moment. I heard the first shot before I could even process what was happening. The sound was incredibly loud, much louder than I expected. Glenn's face changed instantly. His laughing stopped. His fun was over. He pressed the gas pedal as hard as he could. We were out of sight of the gas station in seconds. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The bullet had gone through the convertible top. It had torn a hole right through the fabric. I could see the hole. I could see daylight through it. Glenn kept driving, faster and faster. We did not see the hitchhiker again, but I kept thinking about what had almost happened. We had almost died for a prank, for a stupid joke that Glenn thought was funny. We made it home a few hours later. I did not speak to Glenn the entire drive, not one word. When I dropped him off at his place, he tried to make a joke. He tried to laugh about the whole thing. He expected me to laugh with him. I did not laugh. I told him what I was thinking. I told him that was the cruelest thing I had ever seen him do. I told him that he had put both our lives in danger just to make himself feel better. I told him that he had shown me who he really was, and I did not like that person. Glenn tried to apologize. He said it was just a prank. He said he did not think it would go that far. He said he was sorry. But words did not mean anything to me anymore. Actions spoke louder than words, and his actions had shown me that he did not care about anyone but himself. When I got home, I had to explain to my parents what had happened. They were angry, but they understood why I was the most upset. My dad helped me get the car repaired. I fixed the top. I fixed the bullet hole. I made the Mustang look like nothing had happened, but something inside me had changed. Glenn called me a few times trying to patch things up. Each time I let it go to voicemail. I never called him back. I never responded to his texts. A friendship that had lasted 14 years was over. Just like that. We went off to different colleges like we always planned. We just went alone. We did not see each other for years, and when we finally ran into each other at a reunion, it was awkward. He tried to talk to me about the road trip. He tried to make it a funny story. I just walked away. That whole experience taught me something important. People will show you who they really are if you pay attention. Glenn had shown me that he could be cruel, he could be selfish, he He could put people in danger just for a laugh. And I could not forgive that. I could not move past it. I could not be friends with someone like that. I learned that respect has to be the foundation of any real friendship. And once it is gone, you cannot build it back. Glenn had lost my respect that day, and no apology could ever get it back. To this day, I still think about that hitchhiker. I wonder if he was okay. I wonder if he is still out there. I wonder if he remembers us. I wonder if he regrets pulling that gun. But mostly I wonder what would have happened if Glenn had just driven away from the gas station instead of playing with that guy. 1 second. That is all it would have taken. 1 second of thinking about someone other than himself. 1 second of not being cruel. 1 second of being a good person. And we probably still be friends right now. But Glenn was not that person, and I could not pretend that he was. My name is Michael, and I need to tell you about the worst day of my life. A day that happened over 40 years ago, but still haunts me like it was yesterday. A day that started normal. A day that had no warning of what was about to happen. A day that changed my family forever. I was a kid. Not even a teenager yet. Maybe 10 years old. My family was taking a road trip across the country like we did every summer. My parents loved to travel. We had been to the Grand Canyon. We had been to Disney World. We were planning to go to a dude ranch in Wyoming that summer. A place where we could ride horses and experience the real cowboy life. My mom was not excited about the idea at first. She was a city person. She grew up in Chicago. She had no idea how to ride a horse. She had no idea about any of that cowboy stuff. But my dad convinced her. My dad could convince anyone of anything. He was charming like that. My mom used to say he could sell ice to an Eskimo. She always gave in to him. We left Phoenix early one morning, heading toward Wyoming. My dad said we would arrive at the ranch around dinner time the next day. The drive was going to be long but manageable. My brother was 7. I was 10. We were excited about the whole thing. We were imagining what it would be like to ride horses and sleep in cabins and live like cowboys. The drive was normal for the first several hours. My brother and I were sleeping on and off. You know how it is when you are a kid. Everything looks the same. All the states look identical when you are 10 years old. But I do remember that we had a flat tire somewhere in Utah or Colorado. I am not exactly sure which state. I remember it was about an hour before sunset. I had just learned in Cub Scouts how to tell time using the sun and your hands, so I estimated it was about an hour before dark. My dad pulled over onto the rocky shoulder. He started to unload the jack and the four-way. We were on one of those old 2-lane highways in the middle of nowhere. There was plenty of room to get out of the way of other cars. My brother woke up from his nap and started being annoying like he always was. My mom suggested he go outside and help my dad change the tire. My brother thought that was a great idea. He loved doing that kind of stuff, even though he was not really helping at all. I stayed in the back seat. I was falling asleep again. The last thing I remember was seeing my brother kicking something at a barbed wire fence about 10 feet away from the car. Then everything went black. I woke up on the floorboard of the back seat with pain everywhere. My chest was hurting. My face was hurting. I could not breathe properly. Everything was raining. That is the only way I can describe it. Like something had exploded. Like the world had broken. Then I heard my mother moaning. I lifted myself from the floorboard and I saw her. Her face was covered in blood. There were cuts all over her face. The windshield was smashed. It had this spider web pattern all through it. She reached over the back seat and asked if I was okay. My chest was still hurting, but I said I was fine. She told me to get out of the car and check on my dad. I did what she told me. When I opened the car door, I saw my dad sprawled out on the gravel-covered shoulder. He looked like he was sleeping. His clothes had dirt on them. His nose was bleeding. But otherwise, he just looked like he was taking a nap. I did not understand what had happened yet. I looked around and I saw the damage. The back of our station wagon was completely smashed. It had been pushed about 10 yards from where it had been parked. Not far away was a black Camaro that had smashed into one of the big fence poles holding the barbed wire. The door was open. There was no one inside. I started to realize what had happened. There had been another car, an accident, a collision. I kept shaking my dad, but he would not respond. I was starting to panic. I was starting to understand that something very bad had occurred, but I did not know how bad. Not yet. Then I heard my mother scream. A real scream. A scream of absolute despair. I turned around and I saw her holding my brother in her arms. She was wailing. She was crying. Her whole body was shaking. My brother was not moving. Some men ran up to us and said the ambulance was on the way. They said they would help my dad. But I could not focus on that. I could only focus on my mother holding my brother, and my brother not moving. The rest of that day is a blur. I remember the ambulance ride. I remember my mother sitting with me in the hospital waiting room. I remember the doctors coming out and telling us that my brother had died. He was gone. He was not coming back. The impact of that sentence did not hit me right away. It took time. It took days. It took weeks. It took years for me to understand what had happened. My father had told my brother to go play. He had told my brother he did not need help changing the tire. My brother had gone to play by the fence, and then a car had come around a corner too fast. The driver had lost control. The car had hit our station wagon. But my brother was in the way. My brother was in the exact wrong place at the exact wrong time. My mother blamed my father for telling him to go play. My father blamed himself for the rest of his life, and I blamed myself for not doing something, for not warning them, for not seeing what was coming. They never said any of this out loud, but I knew it. I could feel it in the house. I could feel it in the way they looked at each other. I could feel it in the way my mother would look at me and then look away. Maybe I looked too much like my father. Maybe I reminded her of his mistake. My parents divorced a few years later. I stayed with my father. My mother could not bear to be around us. She could not bear to look at the place where our son had died. That was 40 years ago. I still think about my brother sometimes. I still wonder what he would have become. I still wonder if my parents would have stayed together if that accident had not happened. I still wonder what my life would be like if that moment had never occurred. But I know one thing for sure. I learned that life can change in an instant, that happiness can be shattered in a single second, that you can never take anything for granted, because tomorrow is never guaranteed, and the people you love can be taken from you without warning. My parents are both gone now. They both passed away years ago, so I will never know the real truth about what happened that day. I will never know if my mother blamed my father, or if my father blamed himself, or if they both just blamed God. But I know that our family was broken that day, and it was never the same again. And that is something that has stayed with me my entire life.